on down. We're live.
Oh my goodness, we're here. How cool.
Hello. Oh my gosh. Hi guys, I'm Stephanie. I'm so excited that you guys are here with us for our MOPS Monday morning. And we're here with Missy. How's it going, Missy?
I'm alive. I'm well. My kids are taken care of. I think my husband will keep them out of the room, but I'm in my son's closet area in their toy infested room for today. So I'm super, super excited to be here with you guys this morning. My kids have got Netflix, goldfish, and duct tape. I'm set.
You should be set. Yeah. And you've got your quiet space. That's what's important.
It's really what's important right now, for sure.
Yeah. Well, we're so excited. You guys feel free to comment. Let us know what your morning looks like. Do you have your kids running around? Are they watching with you? You got your coffee? We're just excited to see where you're tuning in from and what life looks like for you this morning. And I'm just gonna let Missy.
I'm sorry. Some of them probably have not even had to put makeup on for a couple of days. And their stretch pants. I do encourage people to try on jeans once a week to see where they're at.
Yeah, so. I know. I do wear those elastic fitting leggings all the time. So
yes, it was so funny. I wore jeans the other day for the first time, or for the first time in a while, and my husband was like, "Oh, you got what's it called? Tight jeans on today," thinking that for me. When I go, "No, honey, I just got fatter." So now they're now becoming my skinny jeans.
They're skinny jeans, yeah.
What? It's
so fun. Yeah, we're gonna have all new fashion sense after this, I'm sure.
People's haircuts will look different.
Yep.
Yes, it's just not right. It's not right. That's
well, I'm gonna let you take it away and share with our MOPS friends this morning.
Yay! Well, hello everybody from my house to yours. This is so crazy and awesome that we're able to connect in this way. Let me tell you a little bit about myself before I jump into today's devotion. My name's Missy Vaughn. I am from Bayside Adventure Church, where I am the women's pastor. And I've been for about 9 months and loving the Bayside family so much. And one of the things that I wanted to share with you guys today is about imperfection. It's a crazy season that we're in right now of what we thought would be perfect. So I'm going to dive into that. But before I go there, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm from Jersey. Hey. So every now and then, if I'm comfortable, I'll say coffee, I'll say dog, mall, I'll drink my coffee, and that's just how I work. So if I'm comfortable, you might hear some of that come out this morning. I have 2 sisters. I am a middle child, so if you're at home and you're a middle child, I am so sorry. It's okay. It's not your fault. I just want to release you of any of that right now, because I know as a middle child, I always got blamed for everything. It's not your fault, my middle children friends. I went to Valley Forge Christian College to study youth ministry, where I really finished strong in 2.5 years there with a 0.8 GPA. That's right. You didn't hear that wrong. It's literally a 0.8. Some of you might go to college to make friends. Some of you might go to college just to learn. I went to make some friends. And my son, Logan's in the room. Hold on 1 second. Jody, can you grab Logan, please? Sorry, this is just life right now, right? MOPS is exactly like this. I'm sure some of you guys are wrangling in your own kids as well. And so we went to Valley Forge Christian College to learn have some friends, but I did finish strong with a 0.8 GPA. I'm sure some of you might be in the same boat as I am. I'm not a great educational learner, but that's okay. God forgives us. But I moved here to Sacramento to do a internship where I started a drama ministry called Inside Out. And that's where I met my husband. And I have 4 kids that I've kept alive for all of these years, which I'm super, super proud of myself for being that mom that kept the kids alive. Jada, my only girl, she's 15. I have 3 boys that are 13, 11, and 7. I don't know about you guys, but I know for me, you have to have that one child. Is that your confirmation that you were finished? And Davis is exactly that for me. He is my only one that I've had to apologize in public numerous times for. But with that, I know growing up, I had really been excited about what my life was going to look like. You always plan your world as a perfect world. The 2.5 children, the white picket fence, the huge house, the amazing job that you could work from home, which God maybe knew that this is exactly what it would be like in the future. But you plan for the perfect world. And sometimes that doesn't happen. And so when my third child was born, Logan, everything was normal. Everything was typical of the pregnancy. Everything felt amazing. I had no tests that were done. There's no need for that. And when I had going into labor with him, there were some complications, and they said that I'd have to get a C-section, which that was not my perfect will and plan at all. I had a couple of things that I had set up. I said I want to make sure that my husband was there, my mom was there, and that my husband would have a lot of gum that he would be chewing, because I said if that bad breath comes in my face as I'm blowing, I'm going to kill him. So I had set my birth plan. That was my birth plan. Literally, my husband with gum and my mom. But the C-section was in the plan for Logan. He had actually was stuck in my womb with his hand over his face like this, and his umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck numerous times. And so they had said, let's go ahead and give you a C-section. And if you haven't had one, it's the most craziest, almost creepiest thing in some ways, because you give birth, they have the white sheet over your stomach, so you can't really see what's going on. And then out of nowhere, the most amazing being comes popping around the corner, and they show you the kid that has been giving you that heartburn for all of these months. And so I remember seeing Logan for the first time and was in all of this whole situation. They put him on my chest, and I actually got to wheel him back to my room shortly after they had done some few things. And I remember sitting in my hospital bed that night, and I was looking at my son, and I think we all do it, where we do the check, the baby check, to see how everything's okay. And I remember counting the baby's toes and counting, going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I counted the fingers, and they all were there. The arms, the legs, everything looked amazing. His ears were so cute. He had the hair for the heartburn, his mouth and his nose. And then I went and I looked into his eyes, and I thought that his eyes looked a lot different than I had thought my other kids looked. And I remember looking at Jody, and I said, Jody, is everything okay? And he said, Missy, yeah, I mean, the doctors didn't say anything. Everything's fine. And so I kind of put it in the back of my head. And then my sisters came in later on that day. And I said, you know, looking at them, and I was almost hoping that they'd say something so that I wasn't crazy. And they were like, it's my nephew. How exciting. And I was all excited. And the night went on, and I just kept looking at his eyes, and I kept seeing something different than I had thought, that something was wrong. I remember asking the doctor in the morning, I said, hey, doctor, is there anything wrong with my son? And she said, no, he's totally fine. And I was like, okay, no problem. So I went home, and I did exactly what most of us do when we think something's wrong. I was the Google doctor. I Googled all these different scenarios and thoughts that I had. But back then, I think it might have been Ask Jeeves. I'm not really sure. But I was Googling, finding out what was wrong with my son. And I remember Jody at one time in the couch was like, do you want something to be wrong with him? Would you stop it already? And so at the 3-month appointment, we had taken Logan in, and when they were doing all the checks, they noticed that he wasn't holding his head up the way they like for his head to be held up. And so she said, you know what, I don't think anything's wrong, but I think we might just want you to go to take him to the neurologist just to check to make sure. And so we took him to the neurologist, and as we were in the doctor appointment, he's checking him out, and he literally says, go and enjoy your life. There's nothing wrong with your baby. He's perfectly healthy. So I put him in my car seat. I was somewhat embarrassed. I think my husband was completely relieved. And as I'm walking out into the hallway, the doctor stops me and says, hey, you know what? Hold on one second. I really believe in a mother's intuition. And so, you know what? I'm just going to order you some blood work. But I guarantee you, I will not see you again. I left and immediately went to go get my baby checked. And you see, a couple days later, I was at a doctor appointment with the other one. I don't know if you guys live at the doctor, but I swear my kids are accident prone, and I'm always there with a sick kid. And I remember the phone call that forever changed my life. I was in the doctor's office, and I remember picking up the phone. It was the doctor, and for Logan, and he said, "Ma'am, is this Miss Yvonne?" And I said, "Yeah, this is her. We need you to come into Dr. Sycar's office immediately. We have your test results back." And I said, "Is there any way that you could just maybe tell me over the phone? I know what's going on. I know exactly what you're going to say." And he said, "No, we don't really like to do this over the phone." I said, "Please, I don't want to wait another minute. Can you please just tell me what it is that he has?" And I'll never forget that moment when they said, "Mrs. Vine, your son has Down syndrome." And I remember him telling me all about all the stuff that needs to happen, as far as his heart needs to get checked, his vitals, all this different stuff that they had missed. And I remember just in that moment just saying, can you just give me a second? I just need just a second. Can you just give me 1 minute, please? I said, I promise you, I'll bring him in. I just need a minute. Is that okay? And we hung up, and I remember feeling like a train had hit me. It doesn't matter how much I expected and how much I had planned and how much I had gotten thinking that there was something wrong. It didn't matter, because in that moment, it was the reality it had hit. And I came home, and I kept thinking as I was driving home, will my son walk? Will he talk? Will he be the ball boy? What will his life look like? Will my husband leave me? And I remember feeling so shattered. My life, my perfection had just left. It was out the door. Everything that I had planned was just gone in a matter of a phone call. In Matthew 14 is a really interesting story. I've heard this story 1,000 times. It's the feeding of the 5,000. But I wanted to share with you today this story, because this story, that's amazing what happens if you know all the details. Here you go. Matthew 14:14 shares. When Jesus came ashore, he saw a large crowd. He felt deep concern for them. He healed their sick people. When it was almost evening, the disciples came to him. "There is nothing here," he said. "It's already getting late. Send the crowds away. They can go and buy some food in the villages." Jesus replied, "They don't need to go away. You give them something to eat." We only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, they answered. "Bring them to me," he said. Then Jesus directed the people to sit down on the grass. He took the 5 loaves of bread and the 2 fish. He looked up to heaven and gave thanks. He broke the loaves into pieces. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. All of them ate and were satisfied. The disciples picked up 12 baskets of leftover pieces. The number of men who ate was about 5,000. Women and children also ate. Now, there's 2 things I love about this story. One is I love a good miracle. And 2, I love to eat. Marry those 2 things together, that's probably one of the most amazing things. And plus, it's bread. How many of you guys love bread? Amen, amen. I love it. But you see, that's a miracle that we've all heard about, and we all love that story, how God provided in the stress of the people, kind of like what we're in right now, quarantined without toilet paper. God, send somebody with the baskets of toilet paper, please, Jesus. But see, if you go back just a few verses to know really what was going on in Jesus's life before that miracle, is where the miracle really happens. You see, Jesus had just heard the story, or heard the news, that his cousin John the Baptist had just been beheaded by King Herod. See, Matthew 14:13, just one verse prior to that miracle, said Jesus had heard what had happened to John. He wanted to be alone, so he went in a boat to a quiet place. The crowds heard about this. They followed him on foot from the towns. And in verse 14, where I read before, it says, when Jesus came ashore, he saw a large crowd. He felt deep concern on them. He healed their sick people. And that's where the feeding of the 5,000 happened. You see, Jesus's life was shattered. That miracle had happened during a mourning process that Jesus was going through. He wanted to be left alone. You see, I picture Jesus on that day skipping the streets and asking anybody who's hungry, who wants a meal? I'll DoorDash you anywhere. I am having the best day of my whole life. Who wants to be fed? But see, Jesus had his head down. He was sad. He was mourning, but yet he lifted his head up. You see, there's not many verses that I've ever been able to memorize, but one, and that's Jesus wept. It's okay to cry and it's okay to mourn, but it's at the same time you need to be able to lift your head up. You see, Jesus, if he hadn't lifted his head up that day and to see those people, that miracle wouldn't have happened and those lives wouldn't have been changed and the story wouldn't have happened if he had kept his head down of what his perfect world would have been that day. I remember going home to Jody that afternoon and sharing the news with what happened. And, you know, a lot of people always say, like, oh man, I'd love to be a fly in your house. And I don't think that would have been the day that it would have been a fun night to be in my home. There was a lot of tears, a lot of crying, a lot of frustration, just understanding why God would have allowed this to happen in our perfect family. And I remember telling Jody, and he left for a little while. He said, can I just go for a walk? And so he left, and he after a while he came back, and his tears were running down his face. He had looked like he had gotten hit by a Mack truck, and I knew he had been yelling and probably screaming at God, of asking questions of why. And he looked at me and he gave me a hug and he said, let's do this. Let's do this. And I think sometimes in our life, and even with MOPS, you know, you need those people around you to surround you and say, let's do this. I've gotten phone calls and texts from people that says, hey, how are you doing in these crazy times that we're living in? How is the news about different things? Some of us just need somebody to lift our heads up. You know, Willy Wonka is one of my favorite movies. I don't know why, because it is kind of a freaky movie, if we're honest. But the one thing that would just tick my sister Dory off all the time was put that movie on because she was scared of the Oompa Loompas. So I knew how to get rid of my sister to watch that movie. But I was introducing Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory to my kids. And the story is Willy Wonka is this amazing candy maker and has this amazing factory that no one else is in. But they let these 5 tickets go out. And these 5 golden tickets go into the world, and only one person can go with each person. You know, some of our world right now is not our perfect scenario, but God is giving us a golden ticket to walk our life in a different path, in a different way. I know Logan's my golden ticket into a world that I never knew was out there. The support groups, the people I've met, Shriners Hospital, all these people that have come together, all because I got this golden ticket to come into a world in a scenario that I had no idea what to go. And so walking through each door and each step differently, and to know that God is with us in everything. But just like life, there's distractions that happen. Think about this. While Jesus is doing the miracle of the 5,000, the disciples, ones that have seen many miracles happen before, they kind of distract him and say, hey, it's getting late. Send them away. Send them back to buy their own food. And Jesus says, nah, they don't need to go away. You give them something to eat. And then there's excuses of, oh, there's only 5 loaves of bread. There's only 2 fish. Maybe you've heard that your relationship is irreparable. Maybe you've heard that your kids are not doing well at school. Maybe you're lost your job. And you're just thinking, what am I going to do? And God says in that miracle, in that same moment, says, God, he says, bring them to me. Bring them to me. You see, there's opportunities all around to see miracles and be a miracle right now. Jesus was either going to be showing the miracle, or people were also going to be receiving that miracle and the opportunity to see those miracles. And I wanted to encourage you guys today, as you are roping in your children and trying to keep them sane and yourself sane and trying to find the rooms in the house that might be quiet for you, that you need to keep your head up, because there's miracles all around you that's happening that you might not even know, that you're being part of that miracle, even if it's for somebody else that might need to hear, come on, let's do this. Like my husband, let's do this. And although my life is maybe not the perfect world, it's not what everybody else looks like perfect, but for me it is. It's exactly what God had ordained my family to look like. My family dynamic was going to have Logan part of it. And if you've met him, you know him, he's probably the most coolest human being in the world. But one thing about the story about the feeding of the 5,000 that is just the best part, he didn't just stop at feeding them until they were okay satisfied. He had 12 baskets of leftovers. He provided not only in that miracle, but he also provided for them after the miracle happened. You see, God wants to provide all of your needs right now. Now, I know I can't personally help you with toilet paper, but there's other things that God is providing, whether it's an encouraging word or if it's just maybe it's a neighbor that you got to talk to for the first time, that there's these miracles that are happening all around. And I just want to encourage you guys today to see miracle and to be part of a miracle, and trying to embrace the imperfection of what state we're in right now. So thank you guys. I'm praying for you. I know with you having little ones at home, I can't even imagine. I think the key is just let some rules go right now. Let them go. Our kids are roller skating in the downstairs. There's bleacher seats made out of swings. We've made ping pong tables out of our kitchen table. Just let it go and be okay that you're still without makeup, probably wearing sweatpants, and you probably haven't shaved your legs in a couple weeks, and that's okay. So Stephanie, are you there? My friend Steph?
Here we are. Okay, so we have some questions. Just some things that I think specifically this season, that was such a good word, Missy, and this season everything's different, and things look a little crazy for some people. It's hard. It's just weird. So I think some specific ways. You talked about this idea of lifting your head up, and I think that's really powerful. What are some maybe specific ways in a season like this? Have you found ways to lift your head up? And kind of lift those extra burdens off of your shoulders?
Well, I think what's hard right now is I'm an extrovert to the max, as you can tell. It's hard because this is hard because you want to outside of your own home. It's hard to lift your head up a little bit when you have the kids screaming in your ears. And in fact, the other day I told my husband, I was like, I need new scenery. Like I need new humans to look at right now. But I think honestly for me, I've really embraced that things are not going to be what it was. I don't even want it to go back to the way it was, where it was normal. I think this chaotic situation right now, and the kids are feeling super loved, and taking those times to actually focus in on them a little bit more has been enjoyable. But I think what keeps my head up, I get ready every morning. Literally, it doesn't matter if I'm not going to see anyone. Just the possibilities of me jumping on a live stream always makes me get nervous and get down anyway. But I think getting ready in the morning is actually super key. It gives your boost morale, even if you're cleaning the bathroom. Sometimes that's just something, whatever. But also I think music is a cool key factor in making you brighten your day. I know when you get a good jam on in the house and the kids get dancing with you, it helps a little bit. So I think music and getting ready is something that I've kept myself sane in this whole situation. But
yeah, I love that you're kind of making it fun. Making fun new rhythms.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'm gonna pull my hair out. So it's either facing the crazy or fighting it, and I've lost that battle. So
yeah. Another question: what do you recommend as an easy way to love neighbors during this time?
Man, well, I know one way is not good is have your kids throwing rocks at their fence. I learned that days ago. They were bored. Anyway, so I think, you know what's so funny? The other day I went, most of the time you have to almost wait till they're outside because a lot of people don't want you coming up to them. But I think just the other day, like I asked my neighbor, I was like, hey, seriously, I really want to know, how are you doing? Like, are you guys doing okay? I can't help you with toilet paper, but is there anything that you might need? A joke, or you need anything at the store? I'm going to go to the store later today. I think just honestly loving on them, giving them resources too. Obviously, Bayside is providing some awesome things outside of just inviting them to church. There's amazing resources, counseling, things that are available. There's pickup, grocery pickup. There's a lot of things like that. If you have neighbors that even if you wrote it out, hey, this is what Bayside's doing. If you need any extra help outside of me, put it on their door. And there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see all those if you're interested. If you text the word local to 56316, you'll see all of the things that Bayside is doing in different ways. You can either get involved or kind of ask your neighbors, you know, how can I help you in these ways? So that's really good. Another question, how do you love friends who have a new golden ticket opportunity, but they don't see it that way yet?
Oh, that's it. That's a good one. I have lots of friends like that, actually. I think people have to be on their own pace too. Some people, it hits you like, let's do this. Like my husband was like, let's do this. We got this. I took a couple months actually for me to be okay with that. Even though I heard the news and it still rocked me, I still for 3 months was freaking out of what it is. You know, people have a hard time, I think, seeing joy in the little things. So when it's a big thing, it's even harder for them to grasp the joy in every situation. Sometimes I think it's just perspective. You have to help try to change the perspective of where they're at. Sometimes I have to see news that are worse than I'm going through and I go, okay, I don't do so bad. You know, I always say this when I get hurt. Sometimes I'll say, Jesus went through so much worse. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. You know what I mean? And so sometimes you just have to help try to figure out that. It's kind of hard because I think everyone's on their own journey. Supporting them by just asking them how they're doing, checking in is super important. And I think everyone's on their own journey, but giving them resources as in just even devotionals that maybe has changed you. I know for me, I was pointed to a support group with the Down syndrome community, and that helped a ton for all my questions that I had. But I think sometimes it depends on what it is. But for me specifically, because it was with Down syndrome, I needed to find someone that could really relate to what I was going through. So if it's a miscarriage, sometimes it's nice to know someone else that's been through that and sees the light through that at the end. So I always try to point people to, like, if someone had a miscarriage, oh, I have the perfect person. Do you mind talking to them and pointing them to them? Because sometimes people are like, you don't know what I'm going through. You don't know. So shut your mouth, you know. So
yeah, that's good. Okay, next question. How do you stay on the same page as your husband when you're facing difficult situations like this as a team? How do you stay connected?
Oh, that is really good question. Well, rock, paper, scissors. I'm just joking. You know what's hard? I think we are all answering to our own person, right? We're our own person. Even though we're married, you are going to answer to God for yourself. You're also going to deal with situations yourself. You know, a lot of ladies are like, I can't get my husband to come to church, and that's something that's important to me. I'm like, you just keep coming to church, and eventually they'll see the light. That's kind of how it works with God, right? When someone sees a miracle, they're like, okay, I'm going to be part of that. I think just trying to figure out with your other partner is just be what you want them to be, and eventually they'll see the light with you. As far as if there's a difficult situation that you guys are both in, I think it's hard, right, Steph? Because it's one of those moments, I think, that you have to kind of respond the way you want them to respond, you know. And I think eventually, God willing, you guys will be on the same page. I think prayer is key in everything that you do. You know, if you pray together, you stay together. You know, praying with the situations that you're in that are difficult, and having your perspective be, you know, like Jesus could have left his head down during that miracle and said, you know what, I need a second. That's what I would have said. I would have said, hey, my cousin just got killed. I need a moment. For me, that was, my son has Down syndrome. I need a moment. You might need to, as a couple, say, I need a moment. I'm going to deal with the situation a little different, and that's okay. But eventually, prayer and God really helps unite those things together for sure.
That's so good. Yeah, that's really helpful. This is kind of similar, but Charity asked, how can we help the spouse who still has an outside job, so their rhythm hasn't really changed, kind of adjust to the different expectations in the home? And maybe this is a second question, but help with emotional and frustrations of the change as the kids are kind of going through the same change and their behaviors are changing. How do we adjust those expectations and navigate those scenarios?
I think this is a season to throw all rules out the door at this point. I have, and not ones that are keeping them behaviorally wise, but seriously, I think to keep our family sane, we've had to our rhythm is not the same as it used to be, but it's finding that new rhythm. I think that's important. And whether it's going for a walk for you as a mom to get that break and letting your husband know, hey, when you get home from work, because his rhythm hasn't changed, but you're going crazy. I think it's important for you as a mom to, especially little ones. I mean, these are preschoolers. This is no joke. These ladies are surviving right now. They're maybe not, some of them might be thriving, but they're surviving. And when someone's surviving, you ask, you do that white flag, you say, Jesus, help me. I think so important to communicate to your husband, your spouse, where you're feeling and how you're emotionally at. I think right now that's going to be the biggest struggle, I think, for most moms, is the emotional side of things, not getting that break, that moment of reprieve. I think it's important to go outside. I don't care. I tell everyone, I'm like, you have to go outside, even if it's just a quick walk to get the mail, come back in, go outside in your backyard, whatever you can do to get out is important. But I think it's important to make sure that you're communicating to your spouse more than ever. I think right now, even if it's a text to say, Jesus, take the wheel, and that's your code word to say, I'm done. You need that, because I don't think that I mean, can I say this? But I don't think the men know, experience truly what it's like right now for these ladies to be at home struggling and not being able to see their friends, these MOPS, groups. This is the support. This is what gets their heads lifted up. And so it's important, I think, that you guys communicate over the top.
Yeah. So good. I love that you said have a code word. I think that's a really great practical tip to just, hey, this is going to be the word. And when this word's thrown out, it means help.
Right. And I don't think they understand that too. I think that they're in this stress. And think about this, ladies, the men are super stressed, maybe at their jobs too, knowing, am I getting paid next month? Obviously God is good, and he's taking care of the things. And even if you have lost your job, God is still going to provide, and even more, like the 12 baskets of leftover. He's always going to provide your needs. It might not look the same, but it might look different, and that's okay.
That's great. Well, this is kind of going in line with what Britt has asked. Any advice on how to check in with yourself emotionally? And I would say, even just adding to that, maybe one or two self-care tips that you've maybe are new to this season for you, or something that you've kept that has really just kind of helped you emotionally stay stable.
Well, I'd love to say that I have emotionally been stable, but there's been ups and downs even for myself. I've had days where I've cried and I've said, Jody, I'm really stressed out. I need to get out. My bike has been my big emotional thing, and my tires pop, so it's in the bike shop, and so I'm like, that was my outlet. But honestly, I think mental health right now is what I had said is probably the most thing that I've been praying for the ladies for, is just that they will find their own way of self-regulating. I think right now it's just kind of going, what makes you happy? Ask yourself that. What makes you happy? Is it music? Is it friends? Then get on a Zoom. Is it music? Get the music on and have a dance party. Is it devotional? Then wake up early. Wake up even earlier than you normally would. Get yourself spiritually ready for the day. I think it's also important that you guys are eating healthy. Like I'm saying that for myself. I've gained the quarantine 20. Like I have the Corona butt right now. I said, Jody, I was like, this isn't fair. And for the ones that have workout gyms in their homes, shame on you. That's not fair. I think they should be quarantined for an extra month while we get out and can get walking and stuff. But I think working out, stuff like that. But I do think it's so important that your husband knows where you're at emotionally. Like I did at one point say, Jody, I'm struggling and I just need to cry and I want to do it by myself. I don't want you to come and answer or ask me what's wrong. I just want to be by myself. And having that moment, whether it's on the top of a bunk bed or in the bathroom, do it, But
yeah. Didn't you say you're in a closet right now?
Well, I'm in front of the closet.
Wherever you can find the space.
It was safe. You saw Logan walk in. I was going to kill my husband. Jody! But that's okay.
Well, that is all we have for questions. But thank you so much. This was I'm not even a mom yet, but this is like just really good information and helpful to kind of refocus as we're finding new rhythms and lifelines.
This is a season. I think when we say the new normal, I think it's important to say it's a season, and seasons end and good seasons come too. And I know a lot of people have had great, this has been a good season for them, and they're almost worried about going back to the old seasons. And so, but this too shall pass, and we will definitely make it through, and it's going to be even better, I think. It's like Satan, we're like, oh, he's loving this because we have to be by ourselves, but I don't think he's ready for what's going to happen when we all can get back together. I don't think he planned this very well, because I think when we all get back together, it's going to be even more of a revival than we've ever had before. So I'm super pumped.
So good. So good. Well, thank you for being with us today.
Yeah.
And you can look at all the great comments. People are really excited to have you. So
yay. Awesome. Well, I better go find my kids so that they're safe still. And they might be out of goldfish. So I'm here with that.
All right. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.